Welcome everyone to our 205th webinar since we started doing these in late March of 2020. Been growing a great community here, and we're going to talk a little bit about karting data today, and we're going to do that with somebody that's been here with us a lot in other forms of data. Matt Romanowski. Welcome, Matt. Appreciate you being here again.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's always a ton of fun. And as everyone will see, I know you and I have said it before, but I learned something getting ready for this. So I'm excited to share that and then kind of my whole journey.
It has never been where, and I've been here for all of these, and you've been here nearly all of these, that there's never been one that has happened that I haven't learned something new from. So it's we not only are trying to help and get the information out to folks, but we of course learn as we do it as well. So these are win-win as far as I'm concerned. We're going to talk about a data guy that goes karting, and this is going to be interesting because Matt, of course, has been racing for a long time, and in the 914 Porsche, which we'll talk a little bit about in a moment. But for some reason, and I haven't figured it out yet why, but he decided that and I'm sure it'll be part of his introduction that he wanted to get a kart, and well, that plan has backfired a bit. He's got more than one now. We'll talk more about that. And but he's got a kart and he's out there playing around, and so there was never anything better. We want to do more karting related webinars and talk deeply about karting, and so I thought one of the best things we could do to get that process started is bring Matt in and get some feedback from him of, okay, and I've done a lot of automotive, road racing type data analysis, and now I'm doing a bunch of karting data analysis and talking with karters and helping everybody at the track as Matt's always has done, and love to talk about the difference and some of the training materials that we've done, some of the stuff that on his site, and some of the other stuff that's out there, and we get a little bit of feedback from karting sometimes that maybe they don't watch some of these videos because of it wasn't about karting. So what I thought we would do here is do a little bit of a translator here of car data versus karting data, and what is useful to learn from some of our other videos that don't necessarily, aren't related directly to karting, but yet you're a karter. Okay, well, what how can I use some of that information, and is it worth looking at, right? So I thought we'll bring Matt in, we'll talk about that, and it'll be fun to chat about some of his escapades so far in karting as well. So I'm going to jump to the next slide, and Matt, give you just a minute to kind of cover some of the stuff that I did just talk about. Introduce yourself a little bit to some of the folks, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, so I'm Matt Romanowski. I'm a AIM dealer. I do data support at the track. General AIM guy. It's a really fun spot to be because AIM's a great company to work with. Their products and their support. It's something I hear every time I'm at the track is AIM is so great because of that support that they put out there. So it's a good spot. I kind of stock all the products. I've done seminars, lots of these webinars, all kinds of stuff. I get kind of into the weeds in some of the projects that pretty deep in different kind of setups and how to add everything. And then I'm a aspiring F1 driver. I'm working on it really hard, but it hasn't happened yet, but I'm not giving up. Um,
Aspiring F1 driver. I did notice that was in there, by the way, Matt. But just so you know, what about
um,
this first slide? We talk about the 914 system. Matt's car of all of the ones that are out there probably has as many AIM and data acquisition type products in it. Talk a little bit about what you have in your full-time ride.
yeah, so if we skip back one slide real quick, we have a picture.
Uh,
Down here in the bottom right is my 914. I've had I think it's 18 or 19 years now. It's going on 20 here. Um, and it started out with just a solo, the original solo, and then it was a solo DL with a camera, and then it was an MXL2. Actually, it was a Pista, then an MXL2. Now it's got an MXP in it. And now if we pop over, um, I might be a little overboard, and I didn't put the number of all of these items in there. So there's an MXP, a SmartyCam 3 Dual. I have an EPM08 in it, a shift light module, um, the GS dash, GPS 09. The next one's the channel expansion, and there are six, I think, seven. It has a K8 keypad. I have no idea how many data hubs. Um, an LCU1 for lambdas, a whole bunch of pressure sensors, a whole bunch of IR temperature sensors from tires to brakes to track. Um, I've got linear sensors on each shock. I've got speed sensors. Right now, it's only the front two wheels. I need to get them on the back so I can look at the diff some more. Um, a yellow cog converter so I can do heart rate inside the car. And then I have a TPMS system. So I think when you add all that up with the ECU, there's something like 95 channels of data that come out of it. And we'll include the links for that, and it'll be in the YouTube stuff. So if you want to see all that data and how it looks, it's all in there along with the video, so you can check it out. Like I said, that's been sort of a 20-year evolution to get everything in there and put it all together and kind of figure out how things go. But it's been a fun journey, and I've learned a lot. It's helped me investigate all the different features of RaceStudio 3 because I have some data that kind of goes in all the different visualizations. So it's been a fun way to use things and learn it and work with it. But yeah, that's kind of everything that you could have in a car. I'm pretty close to it, including, I guess it's a form of pressure sensor. It's even got airspeed in there.
That's true. That's right.
Right. Thanks to prodding from Tice, who is one of the frequent, he's been a guest host and a frequent contributor here. And then if we jump over to the kart, it looks like almost nothing when I compared it. Like I can make the pictures big and everything. So I started out with a Micron 6 on there. I have a SmartyCam 3 Sport. And to do it, you have a powered data hub because you need to power the camera with it. And then the only sort of extra thing that's on there that I have is I wear on my arm is a Bluetooth heart rate monitor. It can be a chest strap. You can do it with one of the wrist kind of wearables. All that. So what's pretty neat is it puts that heart rate in the data, and then you can also put it on the video, and we'll see a little bit of an example of that later. For the folks, I've used a Micron 6 and a Micron 6 2T. If you're one of the car folks and you don't really understand that difference, is the Micron 6 has the RPM and the GPS, all that built in, and then it has one temperature sensor, and that could be a water temp, or frequently like mine, I run a LO206, which is, if you're a karter, the 206 is kind of everywhere. If you're a car guy, I drive a lawnmower engine. When I tell people that's kind of how I'll tell them if they're not into cars at all. So you would just run a cylinder head temp. The 2T is for folks that usually they're running either, I've had some people a 2-cylinder engine because it's been some different sorts of racing. Like I've had a lawnmower and a tractor puller kind of guy that had a 2-cylinder, or typically it would be a exhaust temp and a water temp. So a pretty simple setup compared to the car, and the most common setup in the karts is just that Micron. Shots fired on the lawnmower engine. It sort of is a shot. But to folks that don't know what they're looking at, my wife thinks it's a lawnmower. Or a lawnmower style engine. To us, it's really cool and a ton of fun.
Inexpensive and lasts for a long time, and very good for karting.
It's super good for karting, and the whole reason I picked it is, as a driver, the excuse generator is running in my head the whole time. I end up running in like the heavyweight. Sometimes I could be a medium weight, depending on the classes. And as some, like I was telling Roger right before we started, as some 12-year-old kid goes blowing by me on the straightaway, and I start thinking I need a better motor and everything else, I realize it has nothing to do with the motor. It's all the loose nut behind the wheel. And it's taught me a lot about my driving in ways that I never, ever expected. And I think we can see some of those in the data pictures I have later. Ooh, Kyle, I thought it was about the go-kart, not the Porsche. It's
ouch.
Talk
about shots fired.
Right. I'll show a couple things later and how relatable the things are that I think will be pretty neat to see. So that's the setup. Like I've got everything in the 914. As a kart setup with the SmartyCam, it's one that a lot of people think it's kind of everything. To me, you'll see some of the screenshots. The video is super critical, especially as I'm trying to learn new tracks, a new sort of vehicle. And then I've had a couple of those really fast kids drive my kart so I can get that video and the data to work on comparing against. And then they think I'm just a nice guy because I got a cool car and I get to drive it. But really, I'm the one that gets all the benefit out of it. Um, so as we're doing this, I know I saw a lot of new people and everything else. If you guys have questions, please post them up. I'll do my best to watch the chat here, and we'll keep answering things, whether it's your car guy and you don't know the karting, or your karting guy and you have a car question or a Race Studio 3 question, just hit it and we'll get as much as we can answered.
If at all possible, put there is a Q&A button down there in your toolbar. If you put them into that, they will jump out at us a little bit more, and I don't have to read through all of the chat. So if you could plug them in as a question and answer, one of the Q&A box, that would even be more helpful. And just Matt talked about SmartyCam with the karting. I've been to a couple kart races in the last few months. I've went and worked a couple of local large kart races that were near me, and I'm telling you, there was two or three of the karts that I worked with that they had cameras on, and karting stuff happens so quickly and changes the direction and exactly where the kart is pointing. And boy, the ones that had the SmartyCam video, where when we zoom in and you can get that video down to a, almost frame by frame as you're walking your way through with in the RaceStudio 3 data, that was very, very helpful to try to teach the younger drivers the understanding of a late apex, or those kind of things, and where they had the kart exactly placed. I think we're going to see that a little bit in the stuff we're going to look at later. So that's very, very helpful in the karting world.
Yeah, so let's hop to the next slide here.
Okay, let's jump over there. Boom.
Um, one of my main benefits is going from the car and the kart and back and forth is RaceStudio 3 is sort of the key to the whole thing. And it doesn't matter what aim system you have, RaceStudio 3 is going to help you get there. And even if you have older systems, if it's a Micron 5 or an older MXL 2 Dash or something, everything goes into RaceStudio 3, and then we get to compare it. And once we're in there, the hardware differences go away, and we're just working with that data set. So it becomes really easy if it's video or speed or G-forces, whatever becomes important to you in there, it's right there. In the car, RPM is more important for me most of the time to look for over revs and things. Or if we have a transmission, like a Formula car that we can change a lot, or we have a rear end gear we can change, we look at that more for the straights versus the kart. We're looking at it all the time to figure out where it accelerates best, what the best time to hit that rev limiter is, and we can change gear. If you have 4 sessions at a race, or 5 sessions, you might make 3 gear changes in there. So it really gives you that chance to move things around. But RaceStudio 3 ties it all together and brings it in one spot that we get to work through it and go from there. So that's one. If you're not used to using RaceStudio 3 because it's not kind of part of your data part, grab my data, or if you're curious about it, you can grab my data, the kart data and the car data, or the video, bring it all in, and then kind of work through it, and you'll be able to recreate some of these cameras.
In case you're not watching the chat box, in the links in there are links to the presentation that we're looking at now, because there is some interesting slides you might want to review back on, and there are 2 different links also to the sample data. There's 3 AIM data files in there for RaceStudio 3. Are they all karting, or are there some car stuff too, Matt? I didn't look that closely.
All the data, I have the car data for the car and the kart, and the links kind of go both ways.
Gotcha. And then so there's a second link in there that is the sample SmartyCam video. You just import those both. It'll link them together. Those of you that are watching later on YouTube and don't have the availability of the live chat, all of the links that we're going to talk about today will be in the description down below. So anything we talk about will be down there for you as well. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, and just before we move on, Elliot has a great question: is which camera am I using? In the kart, I use the SmartyCam 3 Sport, and that's kind of an important thing. The Sport's the smallest one, works really great in the kart. And then in the 914, I run the SmartyCam 3 Dual. So I have 2 bullet cams, one on me, one out the front. It's a great tool. If you're trying to learn some racecraft, you can use it with 1 camera out the front, 1 out the back, to kind of get a better view of what's going on. But they're both SmartyCam 3s. The quality on them, I think, is great. It ties into RaceStudio 3, and the biggest feature about them is it puts all the data that you collect on the video right away. So I have my speeds, I have my lap times, I can have predictive time, G-forces, all that kind of stuff. With the Micron 6, I can get my heart rate on there. So as soon as I take that micro SD card out and I put it in my computer, I have the video to watch with everything on it. I don't need to do any extra processes. And it's one of the differences to me in karting is I ran a race on Sunday, and I think official practice started at 11 and the awards were done by 4 o'clock. So it's really a quick day and the turnaround's really fast. So you don't have time to do these extra big things. You just have to be able to jump into it. And the SmartyCam, for me, buys me that time to try to improve and learn what's going on.
And Matt mentioned that this is the smaller of the two, so keep in mind that these are not to scale. So
No,
the images here are not nearly to scale. This is a lot smaller than that, and this
or
is a lot
accurate
smaller
in
than
weight.
that.
I was shipping out some duels today, and it is a much heavier camera than the sport. And only because I'm trying to run the lightest weight I can all the time. To me now, those things, like, you notice how much of a difference it makes. Where the sport really is lighter, the microns are lighter, and how all that plays in.
Okay.
And then Bruce's quick question is, I'm not in a league. All the different tracks have different kind of championships that go through. Because of my schedule, I can't make them all, but it doesn't stop me from trying to get in there and get some points towards those championships and have a blast with it. Cool. So I think we can look at the next one. So the big part for me was, as I go in, the driving styles, the karting part, the way the day runs, it's all totally different. But the data part is the same. I get to use RaceStudio 3, and it really works me into something I'm much more comfortable with. I have no idea still how to set up a kart. It's been 5 months. I can't help you what to do to make things go better, but I know how to use the data. If you tell me what you want to look at, I can grab your data. I can look at it. If somebody tells me what to look at, I can do it. So it's still your time distance graph. I'm in there all the time comparing my speeds and my RPMs of the kart to try to figure out what's going on. Split reports have become more and more important to me to try to figure out where my best rolling lap is, what the best theoretical is, to try to figure out where I can get to pace-wise and kind of where my driving level is. In the car, the channel reports, and we'll see this, was always my most important part. When I get to the kart, it's one of the kind of least important parts to me now, as I'm trying to learn things. But as I was preparing for this, I think there's some ways you could use it. And I see, I think Roger's going to stick the channel report function in there. One of the really cool things you could do with it is having the side items in there and being able to look at everything with it. I think it could give you some extras, because you could see, you could have like your max RPM along with your maybe the lap distance, to kind of compare if that's always happening the same way, or along with like lateral G or longitudinal G to see if it's pulling the whole way and how consistent it is. SmartyCam video, like I said, has been completely critical to me trying to get better in the kart, and to be able to export a video theoretical best lap with one button is gigantic, because then I can take a whole session, have a whole bunch of laps, output that theoretical lap, and then use it kind of as a study guide to try to figure out where to put the kart. And one of my challenges that I've been learning karting is to try to be consistent with my speeds, because sometimes the braking zones seem impossibly late or light. It's one of the ones, as people explain things to me, is I found I would brake because I was at a corner, not necessarily because it was where I needed to brake. And using the video and those the best theoretical laps, I could take that sector where I did it the best and then see right where that speed reduction started to happen, and see that the random crack that somebody told me to slow down at, that was like 8 feet from the apex at the end of the front straight, really was the right spot. Like, I did it, and now I just have to be able to replicate it the next time I come around. So something that has been pretty important to me to try to be able to put together. And then I haven't got in as much, but it's always kind of in my head where I'm looking at thinking about how to use the histograms, scatter plots that you'll actually see it's on this page, is to look at RPM versus speed, because it'll tell you all about clutch slip. And the frequency analysis, which I will say is not my strongest suit, so I'm not positive where to use that with a kart. I know where to use it with cars and suspension position, but I'm sure there's some good spots. So hopefully this part shows kind of all the functions in RaceStudio 3 are going to be the same. It's just going to be what we look at in there. Um, and whether it's in a cart or a car or I talked to a customer today with a boat, all those things are always going to be the same. It's only going to be what we look at and what the focus of that function is. So if we hop to the next one, here's the thing that throws me off still. That's the biggest difference is where you mount the camera. Um, in a car, you almost always kind of mount it over your shoulder in the center of the car so you can see the hands. Sometimes you get both mirrors and you have this great kind of center view of everything. Most common mounting position in a cart is either going to be on the radiator, which is to the side, or where I have a 206 and my motor's on my right side, I have the camera on my left. In these two pictures, I picked them purposely, is they show the big difference. Both of these are on the apex curb. The car, it's easy to tell you're right there at the curb. The cart, I'm in the way. It's something that's thrown me off, and I don't know if it's caught any of you guys out, or if maybe if you just kind of do one of the disciplines, cars or karting, it doesn't catch you. But it's taken me a little bit. It's actually made me think about just sticking the camera up on the front fairing.
I have seen that personally at kart tracks where people are running and they make some sort of a 3D printed mount or something that can hold it even better than just than a RAM mount or something. But
Yep.
done a nice job in it, and it seems to work really well.
Yeah, it is kind of on the list of one of the things I want to experiment with. But instead, I have a built motor that was going on last night for the next race.
Of course you do.
And then the other one is the it catches me once in a while is the distances and the speed differentials are smaller in the kart. The track I'm going to run tomorrow night is a really cool track. It's called Rocky Ridge Vermont Shifter Karts up in Barrie, Vermont. The track is 800 feet. It's if I run really good, it'll be like a 16-second lap. It's fast and short. So when you look at these differences in the time distance graph, they're super fast in how it all occurs versus in a car. We knew Roger was just out at the Ozarks supporting the NASA championships. You said that was a 4-mile track?
Yeah, just under 4 miles.
Yeah, and what was sort of a representative lap time there?
Oh, I think the fastest I saw was like 221 or something. A very high speed track. Spec
Right.
Miatas were 80 some mile per hour average speed. Crazy.
Yeah, right. I've never done 80 in my kart. I think my max is like 53. So it gives you that idea. Like the speeds are a little bit lower, but at the same time, the difference between a great lap and a bad lap, that speed is smaller. So your level of zoom and kind of displaying is different. But again, it's in the time distance graph, and then it's really just your x-axis along the bottom. Instead of being 4 miles, it is 4,000 feet or something. I don't even know if I've seen a 4,000.
Question for you, Matt. We have different cameras with different fields of view. Are these both the same, you think?
Yes, those are both. What is the date? Those are both 84s.
84s, okay.
Yep.
Pretty typical. And I wonder if there is. I do know some of the karters did like a little bit of the wider angle. That maybe that was why because of the speeds in the corners and which is things that are closer. Maybe that's why they did it a lot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there you go. That's the thing I found actually the biggest difference, and the thing I've sort of struggled with the most is me being in the way of my camera. And it's something I could fix that I need to get on that.
Okay.
So we hop to the next one. What I want to do is step through and kind of show what I do for my car analysis and kind of a big picture process of how I work with it and compare that to what I do for the cars. So in the car, the first thing I do before I even leave the roof of the car as I download the data is I jump into the channel report, and I have these set up where I have all my vehicle health measures. In this one, you can see the first column is the min and max RPM, oil pressure, voltage, transmission temperature, speed, crankcase pressure, I'll have temperatures in there, and I can quickly go through it and scan these things and make sure that the vehicle is going to be healthy. I have enough oil pressure. I didn't over rev it. That it's not overheating, any of those things. Because if I'm working with a team and I don't have to, and I have to give them a heads up that an alternator needs to be changed or it's not charging, I can do that and give them the most time before the session. So I always start there to make sure everything's good. Or if it's the case that you have a big over rev or something and it's not safe to run the car, or the engine builder is going to be worried, it gives you a chance to work towards that. So this is always where I start. And then the next one in my car analysis is then I start to dig in a little bit and I look at the speed. And then the way my mind works as a driver, kind of before I'm a data guy, is I look at what inputs do I have to the car. I look at throttle, brake, and steering. And that's where I start to go faster. And that's what you can see in these graphs is the top one is the speed. The next one is my throttle, brake, and steering. And then on the bottom, something I use in the cars and I've really used the heck out of in karting is the time compare, which tells you where you've gained or lost time compared to in between the two laps. Because you can see in these two, I think these two laps ended up being a hundredth apart, like so 0.01 apart in lap time. Actually, we can see it in the top there. In the top of the SmartyCam window, the one on the left was a 144.891.
Yeah.
The one on the right is an 844.961. So I'm sorry, it was a tenth. No, 500, 700.
Yeah, 500s, yeah, 5 or 600s.
But you can see how they alternate between them of where one's faster than the other a little bit.
If you're below the
so you
line, you're faster. If you're above the line, you're slower.
Yeah, so it gives you a real chance to see where you've made up and lost speed in those two things. With the SmartyCam, you get that visual representation of in the data where the cursor is, but also being able to see the video position of everything. And as you go in, this one, because they're a couple of years apart, one of the things I liked about it, and it was something that Roger talked about, is you can see the pointing of the car is a little bit different. And that's a big one is in the kart. I've used it a lot with the SmartyCam video is what's the angle of the cart as I get to the apex? Because that's really what determines, it gives you a good measure if you're tight or loose as you approach to it. And it also gives you how you're coming out of the corner. And the SmartyCam really lets you do that well. So my second part of the kind of car analysis, then I start to drive in is how do I go faster? And then the third part of it is I start to look at segments. In the last year, I've been a little bit lighter on segments in the car analysis because if it's a track I've gone to, I usually have some sort of good reference lap and I can see the idea of these changes in the speed graph. So I've really been in the speed graph more with the cars and that time distance than the segments, but we'll see that flips around a little bit. One of the powers that I really like inside RaceStudio 3 where I consider it like my day after analysis, I'm not usually doing this while I'm at the track, is I'll sit there and as you click through the segments, it will highlight the graphs on the right. And what I'll do is I go through and I look at those different segment times and I'll look and go, okay, well, which one was faster in that small time distance? Which one was the shortest distance? Which one was the fastest time? Where was that in the lap number? Was it tire fall off? Did I start my pressures too high or too low? And I keep kind of digging through there. And that's going to be the same. It doesn't matter what aim device you have or what kind of race you're doing. If you have a segment, you can do this part. And then I think, was there one more that I kind of put in here for my car stuff? And then I keep digging in. This is where the new weather feature comes in pretty handy. If it's different days or sessions, you can look at and say, is the weather pretty much the same? Was that one of the big influences? Here I've got scatter plots with the circular background on it, so I can look at a friction circle and say, how was I driving? And at the bottom, I have a G-sum graph, which is a kind of linear representation of that friction circle. And then obviously the colored Google map. I think this one is for speed, but it's a great way to be able to take some of those different measures we have and put them on the track map to see things. In the car, I use it all the time. In the kart, I use it all the time because it's such a great way to try to see things and see what's happening. So now I think we jump into what do I do in the kart? So in the kart, the first thing I do is I download my data. I jump straight into the speed and the RPM in a time distance with my videos. One of the challenges for me has been trying to figure out the gearing, because in the car, it was nothing I ever had to do. Like I picked gears when I built the transmission, and that's what I run. In the kart, you're changing sprockets whenever you want. So it's been a challenge, and you can see 3 different times that there were chip hits at the end of this data. So it could have had 3 different gears in it, and you're trying to figure out, is it better to go fast down the straightaway? Is it better to pull out of the corner? To do all that. So like right away, I can look at my gearing and go like, where do I hit it? I can click that point. I can see it in the video. I can see it on the map and say like, okay, is my RPM good there? And then I jump into the speeds and I say, okay, what was my good lap? What was my bad lap? And where are those differences? This data is from OVRP, track out in Cudbackville, New York. It's interesting, as a kid, we would drive that highway a lot and go through Matamoros, Pennsylvania. And when we went to visit relatives, it was an hour from when we got there. And it was when I saw where the track was, I was like, I know exactly how long it is to get there because I rode in the back of a station wagon a lot trying to do it. One of the ones I've looked at this data set a lot because it has my best lap. And when we look at that time compare, we can see where the blue line, the last time it gets back to almost 0, which is in the middle of that hairpin, I can do it to there like repeatedly. And then from that point through the rest of the track is where my big variance comes from. But what's so cool about using this time distance is it tells me where I need to focus my efforts. Is I'm not going to the track and I'm not trying to drive harder all the way to turn 3, because I can get that, like I can do that part repeatedly from 3 to the hairpin. I can do it most of the time. From the hairpin out, I'm struggling, and that's where more of my time varies. So it's one of the spots where this has really enabled me to figure out where I'm deficient and where I can start working on and improving. And the other cool one is, we get the time and the sessions and everything. You can see what time it happened. With the video, it's really cool because you can see the 2 were during the day. The last one was a night race, which to me, the night races are just a ton of fun. I will try to make every single night race for the rest of my life because it's so cool to do it.
Until you keep getting older and your eyes get worse after dark, then you'll probably slow down on that. Right? I feel that pain now just driving to the airport at night. Now I'm going, oh my gosh, I wish it was daylight.
To me, it's part of the fun and the challenge.
I'll bet.
Is where it's not as bad, because then as we build these visual maps in our mind, as I'm coming out and you're getting into one of those spots that maybe has a little bit of a shadow or you can't see as well, you're trying to remember like, oh, is that here? It's the exit of turn 1, like right at the exit, there's a little worn out spot at the edge and there's a big dip. And you're like, I know it's out here. I just have to remember where it is. So it's like a blind corner, but with more consequence or something. But a cool one. This one, I don't know if anyone noticed it, is it has a big telltale in the RPM trace. And you can see it in the red sector there with the hairpin, is how different the red lap was versus the green and the blue, which is enough. Actually, before I came into the office this morning, I was out there pulling the clutch off to check stuff out. One of the ones that Bruce asked, which is a great question and really important, is, are the kart tracks in the AIM devices? Yes. AIM's database is amazing in that I think it's over 5,000 tracks now, Roger.
Yeah, well over now. Yep.
Yeah. So it has like every track everywhere, which has helped me a lot because sometimes I go the other way, is I go in the database and I'll search for like go-kart tracks in New York. And then I try to figure out where they are, and then I can go find a schedule to figure out if I can go make a race somewhere. So I'm using it kind of backwards sometimes too. But when you buy the device, they're typically always loaded in there. It's something, there's a map section. It's the same whether you're using a car product or the kart. You can pick the map, you can send it to your device, and you're ready to go. Um, so
I'll
it makes it
I'll
super
make the
easy.
and I'll make the pitch again to everybody that's here. So we do have a lot of a number of new folks that just signed up. If you ever go to a track and it doesn't have the map, the Micron 6 is automatically generates a track for you, so you have start lap times even if there's no track map there. You'll get your lap times for that. It starts in a different spot every time you go out, but at least you'll have your lap times. And if you find a track that either the track map doesn't match, our aim track map does not match what's on the ground, the start finish line's in a different spot, they use a new chicane or something, please take my contact information from the end of this. Talk to me, and we want to update the tracks as much as possible, or we will add one. Ask you for your data file, and we will add it to the database. It is a huge source of pride for all of us that those track map databases are. That the track map database is up to date and has the best track maps that are available for everybody. So, if you ever run into something like that, please contact me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and then Kyle kind of has two questions that are really good. Is the first one I want to touch is he asked earlier about can you tell or quantify the horsepower or the weight difference? I haven't tried to quantify it, but it shows up like a sore thumb because when somebody weighs 50 pounds less and you have 9 horsepower, they accelerate so much better.
And the total
So
weight
like,
is 250 or 300. It's a large percentage of your weight, right?
oh yeah, so like the data in here I scaled at about three. The night race I was 386. The other ones I was like 392. If you saw a lightweight, that red sector, they would be 5 miles an hour faster than me the whole way. It just accelerates that better. That's a big hill right there. And then his other question, with the red lap being faster, with the RPM down versus slipping, it made me go through something. That's the part I learned, and we're going to get to that slide in a minute. So just to tie it together, if you're a karter, this is where all the videos that Roger linked about the time distance, which is really the heart of RaceStudio 3, this directly applies to everything you do in the kart, whether it's car data, kart data, racing boats, motorcycles, all of it. This is always the same, and really critical to being able to check stuff out. So if we jump to the next one, kind of the second step where I go when I'm karting is now I'm into that segment report pretty hard, looking at not only the best rolling lap, which is kind of where I usually look first, because I want to know like what's a lap I can really do. Because the rolling lap's just time from a different point. Like I did it, I know I can do it again. The flip side of it, oftentimes it's not that different than my fast lap. So it tells me either I'm driving to a plateau, which I think it really is, or maybe the setup's better and that's all the kart will do. I've put two people in the kart and they've showed it's obviously not the kart. It's me.
Ouch.
So yeah, it's part of the fun for me, right? Is it's this challenge to always keep improving. And then in the segment report, I'll look at the theoretical. I like looking at the average value and then kind of the maximums and the minimums and that standard deviation because I want to know, am I consistent? And that's where these graphs really help you out. The speed graph, when it's zoomed into the top one, which is the speed graph over there, where you're zoomed into the speed versus distance just for that segment is really helpful to see that spread. But then to look at it and go like the segment distance. OVRP has two corners. Some people call it 3 or 4. Then the other one's the box turn that are basically long U-turns. This is a great way to go in there and see what was my fastest time and my second fastest, my third fastest, and how much did the distance matter or was it all speed related? The other one one of the data files I'm sharing is from another super, super cool track, Lafayette. That track has two sort of U-turns. It's super cool because there's elevation change and there's this crazy camber in it. It reminds me, I don't have the corner number right at Zandvoort, where they have that long F1 corner that you go around that I want to drive in a car. But you can look at it and go, is it faster to rim run it, to run the inside? Like, what do I have to do to make this thing best? And it's all here in the segment report that you get to look at and dig through it. This one, I have the classic report. If you check out that video that Roger did with the all the details of the function. You can colorize them and you can make them bar graphs. So you can make this more visual or less visual depending on how you like to take in your information. So super powerful spot. And I spend a lot of time looking at this and just kind of like noodling around as I maybe sit on the couch instead of doom scrolling for a little bit. I'm like, I don't know if it's doom segmenting, but I'm in here checking it out a whole bunch. And then kind of the third step of the karting part is then I start looking deeper into things. So I might look at that segment report and go, geez, there's a lot of variance here. What's going on? And then I'm like, oh, I want to investigate that a little bit. And I start going down these like, I wanted to say rabbit holes, but I'm not sure if that's the right thing because they're not really bad. They're just like investigating and saying like, is there something over here? Is there something here that maybe helps or not? So this one's a scatter plot that I put together that is your speed across the bottom and then the RPM at the top. And if this was a car, we would do this thing and we'd call it a gear chart and it would look like a whole bunch of waterfalls, sort of like a sawtooth, and you would see that where those gear changes are. And you could look at a whole bunch with it. This one, it shows you the engine RPM versus the speed because it's one speed and it's all the clutch slip. So here you can see kind of under 30 miles an hour towards the left where it's all spread out. That's all clutch slip coming in and out. And that's that part we saw in the time distance where we said those laps were really different. That's that same area. So it gives you a different way, like maybe one sticks out to you a whole bunch. And then what's pretty neat here is I colored this graph by longitudinal G's. And it gives you the rainbow chart on the left so you can see the dark blue is where you're braking. And then the red is where you're accelerating. One of the ones that you don't necessarily see in the other graph is near the cursor and then a little bit more up and left at like 20 miles an hour and 4,500 RPM. You have hard acceleration in those red circles or the red dots with a lot of clutch slip, which kind of surprised me. And maybe a tip or something different for people here. This is 4 black springs in a Hilliard flame clutch. It does not match the chart, which was part of the reason I was checking this morning. But this is a great way if you're a karter and you want to compare what's actually happening versus maybe that clutch engagement chart they gave you. You can come in here and start kind of looking at it and digging in and seeing how much does it vary, how much is yours different, what things matter and how that works. So a great chance. Roger put the scatter plot function in there. The link to watch the whole video on that. It's super powerful as you start to try to look at how two things influence each other, and then to be able to color it just goes the next way. The next one is, this is the part I learned a bunch about as I didn't really learn a bunch. I'd never used it in the way that I did. So when I started to look at all that slip in there, my first thought was, this is really terrible. And I said, I need to write a math channel. I need to figure out how hard it accelerated when it was slipping and to try to figure this out. And then I realized the team at AIM gave us a tool that just does that for us inside the delta values. So what I did to get this main menu that starts with open panel settings window is I right clicked. And in the time distance video that Roger had already linked, it brings you through the different ways you can work this, because you can do it through the menu buttons, or I'm a right clicker. So you can right click, go what to show the delta value, or go, I'm sorry, right click, go settings, what to show the delta values, and then average channel, or the channel average in the time interval. And what that does is the delta is the difference. So it's going to give us the beginning and the end value along with how much it changed. And then in this way, it's going to give us what the average was in between those two cursors. So I could pull up longitudinal G and see how hard it accelerated through there. And it'll also give us the distance and everything else. So the next slide cleans this up a little bit for us. And what I did is I zoomed into that part of the lap. And what I did is I double clicked on the hairpin chicane. I put my first cursor is the red one on the left, pick my delta function, my second cursor, and then I get a ton of information without having to do much work. So when I use the delta function, the spot I always start as I start to think about things is actually in the top center here, and it tells us our delta, and it's the distance between those two lines is 7.231 seconds and 269 feet. So now I have a good range of what I'm thinking about. 269 feet is like I'm trying to figure out that. Well, I don't have to figure out. I was just trying to think. We could put this on the average. We could look at the speed, and the average speed in there is 26. I was trying to figure it out in my head. So we get the time and the distance it's covered. This is really powerful. You're looking at a break zone, right? Like how long did I break? How what was the distance? How long did it take? That kind of thing. And then inside each measure that we're graphing, the first number, so I'm going to start with RPM at the top on the blue lap. The first cursor point is at 4,070 RPM. The number in the brackets is the average, or I always get these backwards. That is the change.
Yeah, the first one here is your anchor point, then your cursor, and the first value is always the cursor position. So that 4070 is the RPM right here on the right edge. That is the difference between the two.
Right.
And then the third one is that one you set in the when you were setting these, which of these three you wanted in your previous slide. Yep. Then now explain what you're seeing here.
So that says our cursor point is 4070. It's 831 different from the front, and the average was 3668. The green lap, when the clutch slipped, the second point was 4110, 4109. Not too much different. It still had an 820 change, but it ended up at 4259.
Because of that.
Right. I thought it got a little more interesting in here when I looked at the speed, because then I can just jump right to the average speed and say on the blue one, which was my faster lap, my average speed was 26. And on the green one, which was slower, is 24.7. So there's my time loss, right? 1.3 miles an hour less over 269 feet gave me that I've reduced that it was 0.287 slower. So a really quick way to work through those things and start doing it without doing any math, just using the features that are in there. But the one I wanted to look at was the last one here, was the GPS longitudinal acceleration. And what I found, and I don't even think about it, is the GPS inside the Micron 5S and the Micron 6s is at 25 hertz. So it's taking this reading 25 times a second. So it's fast. It's better than trying to use the accelerometer because it doesn't have all that noise in it. And we can see here that what I try to do is pick my 2 points, so the start and the ends were fairly close. So we can see that both endpoints were at 0.13 Gs. Tons of acceleration here, right? It's accelerating up that hill at 0.1 G. I picked the starting point where they were pretty close. I might have been able to fine tune it, but they were within 0.05 Gs. So it's still in that kind of break phase. And it was also just before the RPM started to tick up. So that's the point right before I started to apply my throttle. But we can see the average acceleration on the blue trace, which was actually faster, was a tiny bit slower. It was 0.06 versus the green one was 0.07. So the lap where it slipped more actually accelerated that tiny bit better, that 0.01.
Especially as the clutch engaged, right? When it actually finally did hit, it pulled the motor down because it didn't allow it to glow up where it normally would, right? And it really pulled the motor down. And look at the speed drop off real quickly right there. Right. It's interesting.
And what I should have done is also stuck the altitude in, because as you come up the hill, I wonder if the hill has some influence here.
Right where that happened.
But again, this is one of the, like I say, investigations. So this is one of the ones where, like Roger said, that tonight before I go to bed, I'm going to be in there looking at this, trying to figure out, like, why did that happen? And I just keep kind of noodling through and playing with the data and going like, oh, okay, why was that? Why was this? This is the way, if you are into clutches, the standard that I've heard from everybody is 2 blacks, 2 whites. For your clutch springs, run 4 blacks, run 4 whites. Go to a test session, come back in, look at this sort of data where it accelerates. Did it what did the RPM do? What was the change? You can do this on your own. You don't have to take anyone's word. You have the Micron 6, the data, and you have the tool to use it in a simple time distance. Um, and I think this is getting pretty close to the end of kind of all the thoughts I put together here.
Except there was one more rabbit hole that you were thinking
Yeah,
about.
this is the real rabbit hole where I start like looking at it and it goes on for a while, is looking at the track characteristics. Is Lafayette, when I pulled into this place, you pull in and here would be the top left, like kind of where the color controls are on this map. And you're looking and the track goes up. And I used the delta function here again, and the difference was like 28 feet of elevation, 29 feet, I think. But I don't really believe it because I turned it on and it said 393 to 418. So it says 25, 26 feet. It looked a lot more. Like it's a pretty cool hill. And you actually, the left side of this graph, you come up to the hairpin corner and then work your way down the hill and then blast back up. Super cool. One of the few times I wish I could run like a KA or something there because they said that top round corner, you just drift it the whole way through. It looked pretty cool. But there I start looking at it, right? And I go like, okay, well, I have my speed trace. I've got my altitude. And then I throw in like, what's the ladder acceleration in here? Because you can see some of these points where there's a bunch of ladder acceleration is also where the elevation changes. So maybe you come into somewhere where you get some compression, or maybe the flip side, as you can see, like the first major corner there in sector 2, you actually lose all the elevation, right? Because you come up the hill and the hairpin's right at the top and you start coming back down. So a spot where you can start to look at those things and go like, okay, how does this influence how I can drive? How do I have to learn the track? The same as we've talked a lot about in the webinars where we've used elevation. And I think it was one of the super early ones where I think it was James Clay from Bimmer World talked about using
It absolutely was.
The I use altitude and he looked at the slope.
GPS slope. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Whichever way you look at it. In cars, we use it all the time in corners, like the toe at Watkins Glen, a bunch of those corners where we really look at and say, how does it compress the car and how does it give us that extra grip? Well, the karts are the same thing, right? Like the tire to the pavement is the same idea. And if we get that extra compression and we get that extra grip, it allows us to go through there quicker. So this is a great way to pull up those characteristics from all the different tracks that you're going to use and go through there. So that's where then I start going through these things and I start thinking like, oh, well, how is this part and how is that part? And what if I use this kind of part of that? And I just keep playing around with it. And then I kind of wait all week to try to get back out there and then use the things that I start seeing in the karting. And I go like, well, what if we geared the car and we use that idea where we got more area under the graph? Or what if we tried to go for that top speed? Because that's really like downhill and that's where we're going to be able to make the most acceleration, right? So you start playing with it and everything kind of bleeds together and through. So that's kind of how I see the two are the same. Hopefully the links Roger dropped in there that we kind of put together help you see how the real basic functions of RaceStudio 3 in scatter plots, the time distance, the segments, some channel reports, they really give you a lot of information to come through here and see how you can take that power of your Micron, of your SmartyCam, and pull it in here and just really work on your driving and your craft to make you better in the kart or the car, right? Because it goes both ways. And the driving part of karting has been tough. The setup part, I still have almost no idea how it goes. And but I'm lucky the RaceStudio 3 part has been super easy. Like that part I can work through all the time.
It's interesting that as we started discussing this a month or so ago, when Matt kind of dove in head first, we wanted to come in and talk a little bit about karting data and maybe from a different perspective. And as we chatted about it more, and for those of you that are new here from coming here and watching some of our webinars for the first time, hopefully what I think you got out of this is while what you may want to focus on, clutch slip and different things is inside of your karting data, the tools are all the same, and all you need to do is think with your mind of, hey, what do I want to know, right? You ask those questions, the rabbit holes that Matt discussed here a little bit. The tools that we have discussed in many of our different webinars are the button pushing and how to change the colors and how to build the maps here on the side, and all of the stuff that's in all these other webinars work whether you're in a sports car, you're in a boat, you're on a motocross bike, or a cart. And and hopefully what we really wanted to talk about here and make the point of was the RaceStudio 3 is that center hub, is that piece that you will be bringing your karting data into, and all of the methods and tips and tricks that we've been talking about for a few years work for karting data as well, and it works exactly the same way, and all the same exact tools work. You may look at it with a little bit of a different focus, but all those tools will be there. You'll just push a different channel to bring over and start the process. So, and I think Matt did a great job of talking about, hey, this is what I did in cars, this is what I did in karts, and we use the exact same tool all the way through the process. So hopefully that everybody sees that. As we're going along, those of you that are here in the chat box, there's just a ton of links. There's a bunch of webinars that we talked about to give you specific functionality, where we went in and we would pick apart every single thing that we could find about every one of those functions: the segment maps, the split times, the time distance, the videos, the scatter plots, and we would go through every single option that was available to you, whether it was an icon or was a right click function. Have some of those change just a little bit with time as we as the engineers have built new things into the software, maybe a little bit, but I think they're going to give you a really good idea, and so I think that'll be helpful. So check out those links. Check out, especially if you don't have video or you don't have kart data and you want to check it out, we gave you the links with the sample data and the sample SmartyCam HD videos. Try that out and play with a little bit, and then get back with Matt or I, and we'll answer any questions that you might have. Matt, you have anything else to kind of add as we're kind of winding this one up?
No, I hope this gave some people ideas of kind of how to use RaceStudio 3 and how all these webinars are applicable to all the karting data and everything. And to Roger's point, if you have a question about an idea about how to do something, or you want to investigate something, you don't know how to do it, please reach out to me or Roger. One of the greatest parts about karting is getting to help people. I love teaching people how to use RaceStudio 3 and how to use their data. So if you have something you want to look into, please send us an email, give us a call, grab me at the track. We'll help you figure out how to get the information you want, because if it's important to you, it's in the data, we can figure out how to learn something from it, and help you go better.
And I will add there that if you're a karter here that you haven't watched too many of these, and you have some specific needs inside of in your mind that you would like analyzed, and maybe there's something that we could Matt and I could put together a specific karting data where we go through 3 or 4 suggestions from folks that are watching these, say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and boy, I'd like to understand how to look at this specific thing. Let us know. Let Matt and I know, and we will maybe in a few months put together another karting data specific thing with your suggestions on topics. So I think that would be fun as well. Okay, you guys have all the links there. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, all the links that we have placed into the chat will be down in the description below when I get this video up in a couple hours later this evening, and they will all be on our YouTube site. If you go visit YouTube and you just type in AIM data, you're going to find us very, very quickly. And we got just a ton of videos there. There's all sorts of videos, as we've mentioned, that you may not think tied in with your karting data, but in reality they do. It's just where you happen to be using motorcycles or sports cars or what off-road trucks or whatever the type of data that we used. The functionality there will work with karts as well, obviously. So go ahead and check out our YouTube site. There's just a ton of videos there. Just take a look and kind of start browsing around. There's a really good search bar in the YouTube page as well. If you go in there, I have tried to tag every one of our videos with all the different things that were specific to that video. So if you really want to look at longitudinal G's, just type in longitudinal G's, and you will be sent a bunch of videos. They're the most focused on that topic. So go ahead and give that a shot. Customer support. Boy, I think we had folks out at racetracks all over North America this last weekend, and uh, and we'll try to catch up with you there. But if we can't catch up with you there, make sure you give us a call at the 800 number. It's always really important that, as I like to say, is AIM is a support company that happens to sell racing electronics, right? So we're really here to help you, and with dealers like Matt and others, we're doing our best to get you up to speed as fast as possible. But if you have a problem and we haven't hit on it and you haven't found it, give us a holler. We'd love to help you. Make sure you get the most out of what you've invested into your AIM data products. So our next webinar, the new EPM, or the expandable PDM line of the 08s and 32s. We're going to talk about that in our next webinar, July. That's not. I think I didn't change the date there. It's late September. I forgot to change that date. Sometimes I do some copy and pasting. Nobody would ever know that, right? But maybe they do now. But late September, and we're going to talk about that with Robbie. He's going to be joining us. He's done a number of webinars with us, and always fun to have Robbie on with us. A very, very intelligent young man. So he's going to be with us as well. So that's going to be fun. Contact information, we've talked about it a little bit here. There's Matt's contact information, his website, trailbreak.com, matt@trailbreak.com for an email, and his Instagram handle where he's sticking stuff up there all the time, right, Matt? About all of your fun. And mine, roger@aimsports.com. Give me a holler as well. If you have any questions, always happy to help out folks and get everybody up to speed. So I thank everybody for coming. I hope you got something out of this, and even if you're a sports car guy, you got some interesting new stories from Matt about other ways that he's been looking at the data as well. So I think it's been good for everybody. So I appreciate it, Matt. I appreciated everybody that joined us, and looking forward to the next one at the end of the month. So talk to you then. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Roger.
Talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.